Hi, everybody. It's Georgia Rose from Zencuda, and it is Tuesday Night Live tonight. So I am in the Zencuda studios tonight, as usual on Tuesday. Thursday will be my live podcast on govsradio.com. So how is everybody this week? This energy, I find the Mercury retrograde to be actually a really intense one. Usually I don't feel Mercury retrogrades this much, but today I do. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes and see who's going to come on and join me tonight with some comments and questions and just some discussions, as everyone usually does in the soul community. I just have to get my notes, so I'll be right back. See, just when I talk about Mercury retrograde and all the glitchies, I have to leave the camera to get my notes. Hi, Angelique. How are you doing tonight? So I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes. If anybody's out there, you want to just say hi, that'd be great. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight that's going to lead us into a little bit of a discussion about soul path is the astrology in 2020. You know, we talked the beginning of the year about some major things that were going to happen in 2020 that were really going to be intense and make us do some things to change our life. Mostly the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and a lot of the energy that's in Capricorn, which is where the Saturn and Pluto conjunction is also happening. And it's creating a lot of change, a lot of introspection, a lot of things happening in our life. It seems like many of us, from what I hear from my clients, are getting fed up, finally making the changes that maybe they should have been making a long time ago. I'm hearing that quite a lot. But now we have another phase of the Capricorn energy coming in this week and into next week. And that is not only contributing to this Mercury retrograde and making it more powerful, but we have Mars conjuncting the South Node. And this is all happening in Capricorn as well. So typically when transiting Mars conjuncts the South Node, it's a time when people leave our life. It's a time when we leave situations and things, the time of endings. Typically the South Node and Mars, when they come together, have to do with power. And in this instance, in Capricorn, it's going to be our personal power. And so what I would say the best use of this energy is to ask yourself a question. And what that question is how do you use your will? How do you use your power in your life? Do you waste it, or do you use it to create a more powerful life? And so that's really the question that Mars, when it comes into the South Node and conjuncts that, which means it's right in the same position as the South Node. When that happens, that's really what that means. You're going to feel compelled in your life to ask yourself about your own personal power and where you give your power away, what makes you powerful in your life, and also where the people in your life are in power struggles with you, and how do you react to that? How do you respond to that? So you're going to see a lot of changes coming in and things occur that have to do with long-term power struggles. This is karmic. It's things that have been coming in even from past life energy. It's things that maybe you've been on a seesaw or a back and forth push and pull with in your own life. And usually when Mars hits the South Node, it's a culmination of those things. In Capricorn, it's going to be more powerful because the things that are going to culminate and the things you're going to walk away from and the things that people are going to walk away from you about are going to be your structures, your long-term structures, your security, the things that you think are your security in the superficial world. And that's going to lead us in a little while into a discussion about our soul path. So a lot of Capricorn energy coming in, and what does it want from us? What Capricorn energy really wants from us is it wants us to understand what your intelligent use of your power, your attributes, your talents, and your will is. Capricorn is an energy that takes those things and it makes them very practical and pragmatic. It strategizes for power in a very positive way. Remember, it's that goat climbing the mountain. So Capricorn wants to keep evolving. Hi, John. Hi, Aaron. So when you have Mars conjunct the South Node in Capricorn, that's going to be energy that culminates, that's not like something new or trivial. It's not going to be superficial. It's going to be something really deep, heavy, earthbound, something that you've been aspiring to for a long time or that you've been trying to work out for a long time. And those are the things that are going to come into play. And you're going to see where you wasted your power and where your power comes in to be really in alignment with the universe. And so that leads us into tonight's topic, which is the path to our soul. And I knew when I put that out today that this wasn't going to be a super popular night for people coming on. And I'll tell you why in a couple of seconds. But I can always tell when something's really going to draw and something isn't. And hi, Bonnie. And I knew that if I did a live about Soul Path, that only a certain number of people were going to chime in. And the reason for that is because we don't really want to hear about our soul. Oh, we think we do, but we really don't. We want to hear about spirit. If I put something up on the post about spirit, I would have had, already 20, 30 people coming on. But we are interested in spirit. Spirit has a romantic, a mystical, a very provocative, interesting curiosity about it, right? But soul means work. Soul means things we don't want to look at. Soul means serious stuff, and people don't want to tune into that. And that is exactly why I put it up, because I think that sometimes, hi Gina, I think that sometimes we have to talk about our soul. And there is such a misconception, I believe, in the world right now. And some of my teachers and the mystics that I listen to and very deep people in the world will tell you that we're stuck in a society right now that's extremely superficial. It's extremely vain. And, hi Amy, and the vanity of our lives is exhausting us. The vanity of our lives is preventing us from seeing our soul path. And you even see that now in spiritual healers, in spiritual influencers. Everything's about how many likes you got, how many people saw a video. They're striving to be noticed, striving to be famous, striving to be an influencer. And the very core of that is vanity. And you can never get to the path of your soul through vanity. The only way to get to the path of your soul is through humility. When you're brought down to ashes, when you see yourself as nothing without a higher power, that's the soul path. That's when you're in communion with your soul. When you are on your knees crying because you think that everything in your life is just worthless, and suddenly you see, I'm sorry, I have a very bad cold. When you're on your knees crying and you feel like your life is worthless, and then all of a sudden you feel God's grace, that's the path to your soul. And that humility is the union with all. When you know that all things are made from one source, and that source made you also, and that you're as equal to everything in that all, and you find the unity of that and the humility in that, that's the path to soul. Soul can't be achieved by trying to be watched, looked at, approved of, better than anyone else, in competition. That's not the path to your soul. And there's a lot of spiritual influencers out there who will say, or spiritual people in general who will say, I found my soul purpose. This is what I love to do. And I just want everyone to know, and I want everyone to follow me, and I want everyone to get my message. And that's very noble. And I myself even want that in a certain way. But I never look at my numbers. I mean, I have events and I have things that I do, but the motivation for them is almost always because I want to touch people and help them change their life. It's not about a fee. It's not about being famous. It's not about being well known. When someone comes up to me in public and says, oh my God, I listened to your videos, you're Georgia Rose, I feel so humbled by that. I don't feel like, oh, hey, I feel so humbled by that I had an opportunity to speak to someone and maybe touch their life. Because my whole existence in all the years that I've lived, the moments that have really mattered to me were the moments when I had connection and someone did that for me. When I was lost, or I was in transition, or in even an ascension process, and I heard someone, or someone reached out to me, or someone taught me something, those are the most momentous moments in my life. Those are the moments in time that led me to my soul path. And so that's my work. It's not about how many hits I get or how many views I get or who's watching right now. Of course, I want people to watch and I want people to tune in because I think my message is one that is really helpful and healing to the world. But my message is very similar and the same to many people's because we study the same philosophies. I'm sorry. As I said, I have a cold. So I just wanted to talk about soul path in regard to that because I think our superficialities and our vanity is exhausting us. I think that when we come home after a long day and we're exhausted, it's certainly not because we've been in communion with our soul. It's because we've been stuck in a world that's become soulless. We're stuck in a world that doesn't know how to commune with the soul. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight and ways that maybe we can become more in tune with our souls. You know, in the old days, right, in the you know, early part of our existence, people who were mystics and seers and tuned into God would go to monasteries or convents and they'd live a life of seclusion. But if you really read those texts and really follow a lot of the dogmas and the philosophies and the religious beliefs of many thousands of years, many of those people that were in monasteries or in convents were actually visited quite often by the outside world, and their teachings were teachings that started great religions. So living a monastic life is not meant that you're supposed to be on a mountain and not talking to anyone. So when we talk about following the path of our soul, we're not talking about shutting out the superficial world or you know, casting a blind eye to materialism or the things. We live in those societies. But I think being a mystic or being a prophet or being a seer or even just being in touch with your soul means that you have at some point in your life heard the message and the purpose of why you're here and now really want to share it with others because that's the purpose of why you're here and making your life well used. So it's really important for us at some point in our, you know, however many years we live, 60, 70, 80 years, it's really important for at some point for us to listen to our soul and find that union with our soul and let it talk to us, let it speak to us, let it guide us in what really is the true path of alignment, because that's the purpose of why we're here. If we don't listen to our soul, we don't talk to our soul, we don't feel our soul, then why are we here? Because that's the only connection we have to the source that created us. And we were created for a reason. So that's why I wanted to do this video tonight. And I knew it wasn't going to be super popular because usually when people see the word soul, they think it's kind of like, oh, serious work, gotta do, I don't want to think about that stuff, da, da, da. But if I put the word spirit out, then people tune in because they're curious about that, you know. So what's the difference between spirit and soul? So spirit is the way that we feel when we're in communion, when we're in union, when we, you know, you go to a Reiki circle or a drum circle or you are in meditation and you feel this beautiful bliss or you feel connection. That's your spirit. That is spirit. The source of that spirit is your soul. So the soul, as I said, is a feeling of humility. The soul is in communion with all. The soul is the connection of going into and tapping into everything in the universe and feeling yourself resonate with it. So like Angelique just asked, what is my path? I can look on your chart and I can tap into your soul contracts and I can tell you why we were put here. But as far as your individual path, that has to be something that you understand and you learn and you tap into yourself. And the only way you're ever going to be able to do that is, number one, and I talked about this last week on the Law of Attraction podcast, you've got to go into your life and take responsibility and know that you are the only source for everything that thus far has happened to you. Meaning that you have to know yourself. You have to go in and into your life, do a review, and really know that everything that has occurred in your life until now, you had some kind of a hand in. You had some kind of a responsibility for it. Why does that lead you to your soul path? Because if you don't know yourself, you're living a life of blame. If you don't know yourself enough to say, wow, I probably shouldn't have done that, or wow, I can't believe I did that, or wow, that probably was not a very good thing to do. I was really mean there, or I really took the wrong path. I didn't really see my truth. Until you know yourself that well, you will live a life of blame. It will always be someone else's fault for everything that happened. It will always be a reason, a situation. You couldn't do any better. There'll always be a million excuses because you don't know yourself well enough to realize that the responsibility lands on your choice. So the first step in knowing your soul path is knowing yourself and sitting with yourself and talking to yourself, looking back at your life and saying, well, I made that choice and I understand why I made it, but I realize now that wasn't really my truth. And maybe I made that out of fear, or maybe I made that out of little self-worth, or whatever it might be. But when we do that, that's the first step to recognizing your soul, because that's humility. When you can look at your life and you can realize that you were really the person you should be blaming, or you were really the person that made the choice that led to the detriment for you, or the situation you're in now. When you do that, you get really humble. You get really humble. When you realize that you shoulda, woulda, coulda, and then move on from it, because in that moment of humility, you realize you have a second chance. You can live any life you want right now, this second. You can do whatever you want. And whatever is telling you you can't is probably false, because I guarantee you that the thing that you most want to do is probably your soul path. Because that feeling of deep resonance in you, something you've always wanted to do, something that feels right when you do it, something that when you do it feels like no time goes by. It could be 10 hours and it feels like 2 minutes. Last night I did a radio show with Lois Martin, which is on Blog Talk Radio. I Got Your Number, it's called, because she's a numerologist. And I was on for an hour doing live readings, and it was over, and I looked at my watch, and I couldn't believe it. I would have sworn that I was only on the air for 5 minutes, because I'm aligning with my soul. I'm doing what Spirit wants me to do. So that's your soul path. Only you know what your soul path is. I can tell you what your talents are, what your attributes are by looking at your astrology chart. I can tap into Spirit, and he can tell me what your karmic things are, but you alone have to know your path. Mary Ann Sabatina says she has to know her path. Would a Reiki help find your path? Reiki healing, and this is why I put up a post today. Our crystals, our candles, our rituals, our meditations, our Reiki practices are not going to lead us to our soul per se. What they will do is they will open you to being more open to understanding what your soul feels like, what resonates with you. Reiki is an energy healing that will move energy. So once you move certain blockages in your energy field, you may be more open to seeing your soul path or feeling your soul. I feel that if you really want to get in touch with your soul, you need to spend time by yourself. And the time you spend by yourself is not spent in grief. It's not spent in pity. It's not spent in depression. It's not spent in hate. It's not spent bitter. In order to really feel your soul, you have to spend time with yourself in complete non-judgment and just allow what's going to come, allow what's going to flow. I remember 15 years ago, I literally would not have been able to sit in a chair in a room without music or television or any distraction. I couldn't do it. I would get such anxiety that I could not even sit with myself. Now I very rarely have distractions on when I want to sit with myself. So that's the path to your soul. You got to be with yourself. You have to know your core, and you can't be afraid of that. And when the fear comes up, whatever that fear is, whatever is coming up that you are afraid of, that's part of the illumination of the path. Those are the things that will show you what your purpose is because in that fear is your illumination of one of the things you were put here to overcome. So I hope that everyone understands that. So Marianne, I think that, especially when we're feeling a little lost and we don't know our path, the answer is there. We do know our path. It's not that we don't know it. What it is, and this is for everybody out there, what it is you forgot it. You forgot what your path is. And as soon as you remember it, you will absolutely know that's your path. And you'll understand what I'm talking about. But you do know. I'm telling you right now, everyone out there knows what their soul path is, knows what their life purpose is. It's not that you don't know, it's that you have to remember it. And the only way you can remember it is if you talk to your soul. Because the soul knows, and it will tell you. But if you're blocking your soul all the time, if you're in bitterness, if you're in depression, if you're in grief, if you're in hatred, if you're in superficiality, if you're in vanity, your soul can't talk to you. You can't hear it. So the path to the soul has to be in the quiet solitude. I know Mr. John Mineta is, there he is, meditation. I was just going to say it. I just scrolled up to see it. Hi, Danny. Meditation is very important for the path to your soul. And a lot of stuff's going to come into meditation. I did a video a couple of weeks back about healing and meditation. And meditation in the beginning when you first do it is scary. It's scary to talk to your soul in the beginning. There's a lot of stuff there that you probably don't want to hear. But you know what? If it was easy, then everybody would be walking around doing it, right? So you have to work through that. So the path to the soul is definitely not easy. I'll tell you that much. So practically speaking, how do you get in touch with your soul? Before you go to bed tonight, write down the things in your life, however old you are, I don't care if you're 20 or 80, write down the things that come to mind when someone asks you this question. What do you love to do? Really think about the things that you have loved to do in your life, even if it was just for a moment. Like if you say, oh, I went sailing once, and that was, always will remember that day sailing, or hiking, or whatever it is, or I saw the most beautiful sunrise once, right? Write down whatever, 5 things that brought you the most joy in your life. Maybe it was having your child or a birthday party. I remember my ex-husband used to say the best day of his life was his 5th birthday. That says a lot about that. But I'm sorry, it was just funny. But so write down the top 5 things that brought you joy in your life, right? Okay. Now, here's the thing. It's not about those things. They're just things. They're just superficiality. They're vanity, because we are so motivated by being comfortable, right? That's our vanity. So it's not the thing. It's the way you felt doing it. So what was it about sailing that you loved? You felt free. Maybe you felt completely unrestricted in your life at that moment. What was it about having your child? Absolute joy. Did you feel relief? Go into the emotion of what that thing was that brought you that beautiful feeling. Because it's not just joy, it's not just happiness. There was a specific feeling, a specific attribute that particular thing had. And the more you realize that, you're going to go into your soul path. For me, I know that much of my life was spent in restriction, self-imposed when I look at my choices. So I know part of the reason I was put here was to understand security and freedom, was understanding how to give myself freedom in a loving way and live with loving kindness. And so I only understood that when I started really going the emotions of things and say, what did I love about this? Or what did I hate about that? Oh, it was that feeling of blank, blank, blank. And that gives you a really good indication of your soul path. So once I understood about security and freedom, if you listen to a lot of my videos and read a lot of my blogs, most of my work is about that. It's about getting your soul free. And that's why I was put here, to be free. So that's how I found my soul path. One of the ways anyway. And then deep meditations, you can ask God, Buddha, Kuan Yin, the Pleiades, fairies, angels, elementals, whoever you believe in, ask them to show you things, give you signs, but you have to believe and you have to be open. And I just want to talk a little bit about the way the world is right now and our soul path, because sometimes it's very hard to find our soul path, because one of the things that you're going to go through, and this is why I talked briefly about the Mars conjuncting the South Node in the beginning of this video, which is the current astrology, which is an energy that releases things, makes things leave, makes people leave your life, makes you leave things, mostly long-term situations, things like that when it's in Capricorn. The reason why I spoke about that is because the path to the soul, if I had to put one word on it, it's a purification process. And that's a little bit like what's going to happen this week and next with Mars transiting the South Node. A lot of purification. And so the path to the soul, the reason why I call it purification is because as you become more elevated in the way that you think and more humble and living in humility more, things that are going to be important to you are not going to be the car, the house, the vacation. It's going to be really deep emotion. It's going to be things that are very basic yet deep, if that makes sense. And that's because when you're in the purification process, it's the dismantling of every conditioning and every belief you had. Because we spend a lifetime burying our soul in what it wants. And then we wonder why we're exhausted. But it's because our superficial and vain lives are exhausting us. So when we finally start to dig into the soul and find the path to the soul, it's really a dismantling of all those things. You know, what's the American dream? You grow up, you go to school, you get an education, you get a good job, you work really hard, you buy a house, you have a family, you live for that kind of thing. And if you're lucky enough, one day your house will be paid off and you'll have some grandkids and you'll enjoy your life. What in there talks about your soul path? We've become a soulless society. Now, those are all very noble and good things, and we need to work hard, we need to have a life and all that. But where in there is anything written about your soul? So now there's a dismantling process, a purification process that happens because it's deeper than that. It's deeper than the life we've been living. So the soul path is really one of purification, and it's also one of not just purification, but it's also one of living a life greater than you're living right now. And what I'm going to say to you all out there, and even the people who will watch this on the replay, every one of us deserves a life greater than we're living. We do. And that's what we should be aspiring to every day. And that's the path of the soul, is you deserve a life greater than the one you're living. And knowing that that's available to you by co-creating with God, whatever source you believe in. And that's really the soul path. So if anybody has any questions, and John Minetta, the reason why I mentioned you before is because you're on the path to your soul. John meditates every day. He goes out every day. He puts on Facebook another trail that he found on Long Island. He is spending time with himself in communion with what resonates deeply in that heart, that soul of his life. And that's how you find your path. I guarantee you that John will probably be very open to doing something spiritual or something very altruistic in the world, that we'll hear about that in the next year or so. And it's going to bring him to a place of great joy and beauty. Hi, Gina, Liz, Angela, Tom, how are you? Danny, Angelique, Marianne, how is everybody? So if anybody has any specific question for me, I will answer it. I hope I didn't go too deep tonight, but I really wanted to get a little deep with you guys because I feel like we all need to hear this stuff. I feel like society right now, we've reached a chaos point. I don't really watch media. I couldn't tell you anything that's really going on in the world. I know there's a coronavirus, and I know that's affected the stock market and all these kind of things. But the world is really in darkness, I feel, except for the light within all of us. And that's why it's all the more important for us to find our soul path to bring out our light. Because that's what's going to heal every one of us, and we all need that, and we need to do it for each other. Because when we have our dark times, someone comes and lights up us, and vice versa. So really, really important for us to really shine our light into the world. Hi, Mariko. Happy birthday. And that's about everything tonight, unless anybody has anything else they want to say. I'm just looking over my notes. I always try and take a little bit of notes before I go on. And, it's really funny because most of the time in these videos, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about until a little time before. So it's really actually pretty cool because I think spirit just kind of leaves me, which I'm grateful for. Regina, how are you? And RJ wants to know, will he meet someone and be in a relationship once I move to Arizona? RJ, my theory on relationships is when we are in an energy where we are good relationship material, right? We've kind of put our demons to rest and we're really understanding of what it is to be, in a giving place with someone. That's when the relationship comes in. When your life is hectic or in chaos, the relationship doesn't come in. And if it does, it's going to be hectic and in chaos. So my theory about relationships is when we really are in a good place in our life and can love unconditionally, that's when they come in. So work on that, and then you will definitely have a relationship. But I feel like when you guys go to Arizona, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff that happens. So, and then that's about it. So I'm looking at my, right. So then I'm going to leave you with this because I know I talked a lot about the soul path and, spending time alone. And the reason why I always say, you're going to spend time alone to hear your soul path is because you need quiet to hear your soul. You need quiet and stillness to hear God. And that's why, it's so easy to hear God in nature or when we're in meditation. So give yourself some silence this week. I'm not really tuned in right now to that, Marianne. I'm kind of in like a different mindset. I'm sorry. Probably if you call in on Thursday's show, I'll probably be doing a little bit of readings. And Angelique, why am I here? Angelique, only you can answer that. You need to spend time in quiet and understand what is going on in your life will show you. Most of the time, like what's the common theme, right? We all have a common theme that runs throughout our whole life, and usually that has a lot to do with our soul path. The things that we're doing wrong usually until we get it right. So Aaron, congratulations. I know you got some great stuff going on over there. So if anybody else has anything they want to comment on or say, I will try to answer on the subject of soul path. Okay, so Thursday I am going to be on my podcast on govsradio.com, and we also live stream down here on the Zancuda site. And what else? Anything else? I don't think so. I have my oracle cards coming out. They'll be available online next week. And I love each and every one of you. I think that's it. With the current astrology that we have, with Mars being transiting the South Node, definitely try and stay cool and calm. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen in the next week or so, especially Mercury's retrograde right in that area. And even though it's Pisces, it's like, right kind of all touching each other in some way. There's a lot of transits going on. So if something in your life is ending, if someone in your life or a relationship is ending or a situation or a job or whatever, release it, let it go. Be okay with it. That's the best use of Mars transiting your South Node. South Node is the thing that we bring in from past lives, so you want to let it all go. All right? And I will talk to you all. Hi, Judy. And of course, this video is banked. It'll also be on the YouTube channel. I need more subscribers on YouTube so I can do my lives over there. And all of you, this is the energy I source my life from. Please get some silence, get some quiet this week, and talk to your soul. I guarantee you it'll answer. And try that exercise about writing down those 5 things before bed. And think about what was it about those beautiful moments of joy in your life. What was the real emotion that you felt, and why was it so attractive to you? Have a great night, everybody, and I will see you on my podcast Thursday night, govsradio.com, on Zancuda Official on Instagram, and of course here on Zancuda on Facebook. Thanks so much, everybody. Love you. Mwah.